In the land of ancient Egypt, a place of towering pyramids and sprawling deserts, a story of divine intervention and relentless faith unfolds. A story that transcends time and has inspired millions. This is the story of Prophet Musa, known to the world as Moses, a man chosen by God to lead a people from slavery to freedom, from despair to hope. Musa's life is one of the most pivotal narratives in the Abrahamic traditions, chronicled in the Quran, the Bible, and the Torah. The birth of a prophet. The story begins in the heart of ancient Egypt, a land ruled by powerful pharaohs and steeped in tradition and mythology. In this era, the children of Israel lived as slaves under the harsh rule of the pharaoh, enduring endless toil and oppression. Fearing the growing numbers of the Israelites, the pharaoh decreed that every newborn male child of the Hebrews should be killed. In this time of despair, a child was born to a Hebrew couple from the tribe of Levi. His mother, Yocheved, could not bear the thought of losing her son. She crafted a small basket, placed her baby inside, and set him adrift on the Nile, praying for his safety. In a twist of divine fate, the basket was found by the pharaoh's daughter as she bathed in the river. She took pity on the crying infant and decided to raise him as her own, naming him Musa. Unbeknownst to her, she had saved the very child who would one day challenge her father's reign. Musa grew up amidst the luxury and splendor of the Egyptian court, receiving the finest education and training in the arts of leadership and warfare. However, despite his royal upbringing, he never forgot his Hebrew roots. As he witnessed the suffering of his people, a deep sense of justice and compassion stirred within him, setting the stage for a destiny that would change the course of history. The turning point. As Musa matured, his sense of justice became impossible to ignore. One day, while walking among his people, he saw an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating a Hebrew slave. Unable to stand by, Musa intervened, and in the heat of the moment he struck the Egyptian, killing him. Realizing the gravity of his actions, Musa fled Egypt, fearing for his life. He sought refuge in the distant land of Midian, where he would live in exile for many years. In Midian, Musa found a new life. He married Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, a local priest, and lived as a humble shepherd. But his life was destined for greater things. One day, while tending his flock near Mount Horeb, Musa encountered a sight that would change his life forever. In the quiet solitude of the mountains, Musa saw a bush engulfed in flames, yet it was not consumed. As he approached, a voice called out to him,
"Moses, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground."
It was the voice of God. This was the divine call that would set him on a path to becoming one of the greatest prophets in history. God spoke to Musa, revealing his plan to liberate the children of Israel from their bondage in Egypt. He instructed Musa to return to Egypt and confront the Pharaoh, demanding the release of his people. Though hesitant and aware of the dangers, Musa accepted the divine mission, armed with the promise of God's support and the miraculous signs he was given. Empowered with these divine signs, Musa returned to Egypt, accompanied by his brother Aaron, who was to assist him in communicating God's message. The struggle with Pharaoh. Upon returning to Egypt, Musa and Aaron stood before the Pharaoh, demanding the freedom of the children of Israel. The Pharaoh, however, was defiant, refusing to release his slaves and questioning Musa's authority and the power of his God. In response to Pharaoh's defiance, Musa performed the miracles granted to him by God. Despite witnessing these wonders, the Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he refused to let the Hebrews go. Thus began a series of divine plagues, each more severe than the last, as God sought to compel the Pharaoh to release his people. From rivers of blood to swarms of locusts, and ultimately the devastating death of the firstborn in every Egyptian household, the plagues brought Egypt to its knees. It was only after this final, tragic plague that the Pharaoh relented, allowing the Hebrews to leave. The Exodus and beyond, the Hebrews, now free, embarked on a journey into the desert, led by Musa. This exodus was not merely a physical departure from slavery, but a profound spiritual journey towards freedom and faith in God's promise. Their journey was fraught with challenges. As they reached the shores of the Red Sea, they found themselves trapped with the Pharaoh's army closing in. In this moment of desperation, a miracle occurred. Musa, at God's command, stretched out his staff and the waters of the Red Sea parted, allowing the Hebrews to cross on dry land. As the last of the Hebrews reached the other side, the waters returned, engulfing the pursuing Egyptian forces. This miraculous deliverance solidified Musa's role as the divinely chosen leader of his people. The journey through the desert was a time of trials and revelations. At Mount Sinai, Musa received the 10 Commandments, a set of divine laws that would form the cornerstone of moral and religious conduct for the Israelites. These laws were a covenant between God and his people, guiding them towards a life of righteousness and devotion. The final years and legacy. Despite witnessing countless miracles, the Hebrews struggled with faith and obedience, leading to 40 years of wandering in the desert. During this time, Musa continued to lead, guide, and intercede for his people, demonstrating unwavering faith and patience. As they neared the Promised Land, Musa knew his time was coming to an end. He delivered a series of final speeches, urging his people to remain steadfast in their faith and to uphold the covenant with God. Musa's leadership had been a beacon of hope, resilience, and divine guidance. Musa passed away before entering the Promised Land at the age of 120. His death marked the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new chapter for the Israelites. His legacy lived on, not only in the continued journey of his people, but also in the hearts and minds of millions around the world who revere him as a prophet, a leader, and a symbol of faith.